that's right. Well, where's your voice, Ann? Oh, that's right. Here this evening, we are... Must be past my time to talk. We are live right here at WCRS. We're live on the radio. We also are live on Facebook right now. And I am very blessed, although my voice is gone at this moment, to have one of the candidates here today. I think I should get you all in a room and get you all to debate all together right here in the studio. But this afternoon, it is my great pleasure to have the South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, who I've known for years and years and years, since his very first campaign for South Carolina Attorney General. Alan Wilson, how are you doing today, Alan?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on your show, Ann. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for making time to come on the show and come in studio. We've talked many times, but this is the first time in studio.
I think I was on your show in person. It's been years, though.
That's been when you were running for Attorney General.
It might have been like at least 10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah, your very first run. We had you over at Sharp Facets at my studio there.
That's right.
In the nice jewelry store.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I win this thing, I'll come back as governor.
All right.
I'll commit to it.
I would like that very, very much. So you just had an event here in Greenwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, over there at R3. How was that?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was a fundraiser and also a meet and greet. And we had about 60 or 70 people stop by our place, and it was an incredible group of people. They helped us raise some financial support for our campaign efforts, and then, of course, got to give a talk about my vision for South Carolina, and it was just wonderful. Got to meet a lot of wonderful people in this community, and I was very grateful for it.
Absolutely. Well, that's really good. So, Attorney General, that's a pretty powerful position right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So my question would be, why did you decide you wanted to be the governor?
Because being Attorney General is hard, Ann, and I was looking for an easier job.
Well, that goes right to my question, because the governor,
that was a joke.
The governor doesn't have a lot of power.
Well, people always say the office of governor is weak, but that's only if the occupant is weak. I believe that you put the right personality in that job, they can do a lot more with that job. And I believe, look, I'm well situated to go into that job and to leverage the power of the governor's office to really affect change here in South Carolina. As Attorney General, I've been able to drive policy. I've been able to move the needle on judicial reform. I've been able to create the State Human Trafficking Task Force. I've been able to reform domestic violence laws as well as DUI laws. I've reformed how we do victim services in the state. That's all housed under my office now.
Slow down a little bit, will you?
So, I'm going fast because we've done so much with the bully pulpit of the AG's office. Imagine what you could do with the bully pulpit of the governor's office.
Right. Well, I think that, but I was shocked because I went back and I was saying, why is the governor's office in South Carolina so weak? And they said that was set up from back not during the Revolution, but during 18, they were so afraid of a strong government, they wanted a weak governor.
Well, it's always been that way going back to the 1700s, but I think it was underscored. The last Constitution we drafted was in 1895. That was only 30 years after the Civil War. We were coming out from under, as many Southerners at the time believed, the boot of the North, right? We'd been taken into receivership. They'd had, provincial governors.
Right.
And so when they drafted the Constitution, they didn't want a strong executive. Over the last 130 years, we have slowly clawed back power for the governor, or I should say authority. I think Carroll Campbell probably did more than any governor in modern history to balance the executive versus the legislative branches. But there's a lot more to do.
But the legislature here seems to have all the power, Alan.
The legislature has the numbers. So the governor has the bully pulpit. Yes, and relative to the legislative branch of government, the executive branch of government is weaker. But it does not mean that it is weak.
Right.
The governor, the governor can get out there and can really move the needle on policy. The governor has a bully pulpit, has a, megaphone unlike anyone else in state government. And so if it is
so that means you're coming on my show every month, right?
That's right. To hit the mass communicating with the people of Greenwood. But no, listen, yes, it is relative. There are some structural reforms that we need to do, like judicial reform, to bring more authority up under the governor in the selection of judicial nominees is something I favor. That would be one thing.
How do you like where the law is right now, where they have what they have done so far in the legislature about it?
I like the direction that they're going. but they have not gone far enough. Remember, I was the one calling for judicial reform 3 years ago. It was after the Alec Murdaugh trial completed, and I went and barnstormed the state, and I talked to the legislative leadership. I testified in the House ad hoc committee on it. They did give the governor some appointments on the Judicial Merit Selection Commission, but the reality, Ann, is that the governor should be able to have complete control over the nominating vehicle for judicial candidates, and the legislature should have the final vote on those candidates. And the reason is that if you don't like the quality of judges that you're getting, if you have judges letting violent criminals out or having bad decisions that hurt businesses, then you can go to your House member and senator and complain to them, but there's 168 other legislators you don't get to vote for, but everybody gets to vote for the governor.
Right.
And so if the governor controls the nominating, then if the governor's JMSC is nominating bad candidates, then you can go to the governor and hold that governor accountable. We have consolidated power in one branch of government while dispersing accountability for that power. And I want there to be more parity of power between the three branches. I think the people are better served when you do it that way.
Well, I can see that. So now, how about, I want to go back before we move on to some other topics. Your lieutenant governor is a very good pick, but I wonder how much power can he actually have? I know you want him to do a Doge type effect.
Yeah. So the office of lieutenant governor currently is a purely ceremonial job.
Yes.
And Mike Rickenbaugh, who is my nominee, he and I talked about this. There is absolutely no authority in the lieutenant governor's office. You can't do anything. You can travel the state and you can talk to people, and that's a good thing. But there's the only authority in the law or the Constitution is you become governor if something happens to the governor.
Right.
But other than that, there's no power to do it. That's why only 3 lieutenant governors in history have ever been elected governor. So it's historically it's not the best job to bounce to governor in unless the governor dies or moves on to the Senate. With that being said, there are a lot of things the lieutenant governor can do when empowered by the governor. For instance, obviously, until we do any statutory reforms, the lieutenant governor is never going to have statutory authority, but the lieutenant governor can be a proxy for the governor by sitting on that Doge commission that we talked about, eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse at all levels of government. The lieutenant governor can sit over the boards and commissions and ensure that we're filling those boards and commissions. There's a lot of vacancies on there. The lieutenant governor can go door to door in the House and Senate on various bills and legislation. There's things that the governor can empower the lieutenant governor to do. When the lieutenant governor became a running mate in the 2014, it was passed in 2014. It went into effect in 2018.
Right.
From 1865 all the way up till 2018, lieutenant governors ran separately from the governor. Only 2 terms ago, when Governor McMaster chose his running mate, was a lieutenant governor a running mate. The lieutenant governor used to preside over the Office on Aging. That no longer happens. The lieutenant governor used to preside over the Senate. They took that away. So so we need to give the lieutenant governor some statutory authority and give the lieutenant governor some statutory duties. That way, there's a metric on which you can grade the lieutenant governor. Right now, those don't exist.
Well, but can you do that, or will you have to go to the legislature to get that?
So, as governor, I can only give power that I have under the Constitution to the lieutenant governor, right?
Right.
To go get new additional statutory authorities, I have to go to the legislature and ask the legislature to do that. But here's the thing. A lot of the reason you've seen, and you haven't seen as much contentiousness between the governor and this legislature, but you see people running for governor now and in the past, and you see other governors in the past, they would go out and they would say the legislature's incompetent, the legislature's corrupt. Are there corrupt people in the legislature? Sure. Are there incompetent people in the legislature? Sure. We'll stipulate to that. But by and large, if the majority of the people in the legislature are well-intentioned, well-meaning people, whether you agree with them or not, and you're calling them all corrupt and incompetent and then saying, now do me a favor so I can get a political win,
right.
What are they going to do? They're not going to do anything. But if you go sit down in August every year with the senior leadership of the General Assembly, including both parties and even the Freedom Caucus, they should be sitting at the table, and you talk to them about, hey, these are my 3 priorities this year. I want an 80% solution. You take ownership. If I may not get 100% I want, but if I get 80% of what I want, I'll take it. I'm going to give you ownership. I'm going to give you ownership of this law that I want. And then when we get it passed, you're going to get credit for it, as opposed to do me this favor so I can take sole credit for myself.
Right.
And a lot of legislators, they don't know what the governor's agenda is until they hear the state of the state.
Correct.
And by the time the state of the state is coming, the die is cast. The legislature should know what the governor's agenda is in August so that you pre-file all the bills the governor wants passed in December, and then the very first day of session, the governor and the senior leadership of the legislature hit the ground running with all the stakeholders going across the state to move that needle. You can get real laws passed by working with them that way. But right now we have governors that in the past have lectured the General Assembly and governors that have tried to embarrass the General Assembly. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against embarrassing people who need to be embarrassed.
Right.
I mean, we'll pants them and spank them in front of everyone. But there are so many people in the legislature you lose who are good people who would help you with your agenda if you had a conversation with them outside of the public. I can't tell you how many times, Miss Ann, some legislator will write a letter to me and say, Attorney General, I want you to do something. And then they'll go and tweet that letter out to the media, and we get calls from the media, and we've never gotten the letter. And so we get the letter like a week later, and that House member was asking me to do something that really wasn't controversial, but they were really doing it to impress their constituents. Look how important I am. Look how much I'm doing for you. I'm demanding the Attorney General take action. Right there, it's human nature to say, wait a second. I'm not mad at what you're wanting me to do. I'm mad at the way you're trying to make me a tool for your own political agenda, as opposed to making me a partner in your political agenda. So as the governor, I'm going to try to treat people with respect. If they are willing to work with me to give me at least 80% of what I want, then I'm going to work with them. Now, that doesn't mean I won't come back for the other 20% next year.
Right. And really, there shouldn't be this animosity going on because it is a Republican majority.
Well, it is a Republican majority, at least in name.
Yeah, okay, good point.
Fair enough. But again, there's a lot of egos up there. Again, I believe, Miss Ann, that most people that go to the legislature are well-intentioned. They may not all be the best at what they do, but they're well-intentioned. I don't start from a belief that everyone that goes there is corrupt. There are corrupt people there. There are incompetent people there.
Well, does power corrupt? I mean, there's that old saying.
And absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Right, exactly.
Yes, ma'am. But I believe that if you speak to an entire body of people, it's like, guys, we have an opportunity to have real reform, and we can all take credit for it. It's like a head coach doesn't throw touchdowns or block anybody, but he gets credit for the win at the end of the season, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to I'll say, listen, take this play that I'm calling in, and you run the play, and you take a win with your constituents. I'll have a press conference with you and let you stand up there and take credit. But let's get the win. Let's get real reforms in place for the people of South Carolina. Let's lower property taxes. Let's eliminate the income tax. Let's reform our infrastructure system, our DOT. There's so much stuff we can do if we work together instead of trying to score political points.
Right. Well, I mean, that is a good point. Now, speaking of the judicial system, I really thought how that with John Few and that whole thing came together was a disaster and looked so bad, with him resigning, with Jay Lucas trying to be put into that position. What do you think about all that, how that came together?
Miss Ann, I believe two things can be true at once. Okay, I believe that the former Speaker, Lucas, is a good man, a decent man, an honest man. I believe he's a competent person. I worked well with him when he was the Speaker, and I can believe all those things can be true. But I also believe that when the legislative body tries to put one of their former members who used to be their senior leader, who's 70 years old, put him in a position on the Supreme Court when there was never an ambition before for him to run.
Exactly.
I think that underscores our belief that the legislature has too much say. I'm not saying that to cast aspersion on Mr. Lucas, because I do think he's a good man, but I think it was a really, really bad look, and I told people that. I did not think it looked good. Mr. Lucas, Speaker Lucas could have run for, there were 3 other judgeships that opened up since he's been Speaker, and he could have run for any of them. Now, whether or not you like John Few, whether or not you like some of the other candidates running for judge, there were other good candidates that were capable. But again, it looks bad when the legislature says we don't have too much control, but we're going to put a 70-year-old former Speaker of the House who has to retire in a couple of years in the Supreme Court.
And they wanted him, and he wanted them to bypass the fact that he should be retiring in 2 years.
They were disputing that there was a mandatory retirement. That was a debate that would come up. Right. And here's the irony is, who would have to adjudicate that debate? The Supreme Court. So, I mean, it's like circular here, right?
Right.
Someone would sue to say you have to get off the court, and it would go up through the court system, and it would land on the desk of the Supreme Court. And so it was just not a good place to be. And again, I do think Jay is a competent, capable person. I like him personally. I think he's a great man. And he did a lot for me as Attorney General when he was Speaker. I just think it was a bad look, and I don't think it served the best interest of the judiciary to do it that way.
Exactly. Well, what do you think about the fact that they have to start over again? I was talking to a legislator the other day, and he goes, "Well, by John Few stepping down, that's going to cost the legislature a lot of money. It should have just gone through." What is your opinion on that?
I don't know that it cost a lot of money. I think it costs. It doesn't cost any money. They just reset the applications, so people apply. You're going to have a whole new list of people applying to run for justice. They will file over the next 6 months. There will be a vote next February.
Yeah. I don't really see that as a good reason.
No, it's not but that's the way the rules are written. They have to reset. When he pulls out, then all of a sudden he's not running, so there's no contested election. It starts over. That's just.
But that's not a big issue, the amount of money that it's going to cost.
No, I don't think there's no campaign, there's no taxpayer, there's no apparatus that taxpayers have to fund. It's just there may be a number of cases that the court will sit on where they'll have to have a interim judge sitting in place to split votes, right? But the Chief Justice
was staying in until they found a new one, I believe.
I don't know if he's staying in till the end of the summer, or if he's staying. I think he could technically stay till the following summer if he wanted to. I don't know what his plans are. I haven't talked to him, but if he were to retire earlier, Justice Few were to retire earlier, then the Chief Justice could appoint someone to sit in on these cases and help write those opinions. That happens all the time.
Exactly. All right. Well, we got to keep moving here.
Yes,
we got a lot to cover here.
Let's go.
Now, what about this THC bill and the Senate last week? Where do you fall on that? They did one thing, they came back the next day and changed their mind.
Look, I'm all for freedom and liberty, and I'm all for convenience stores and businesses having the ability to sell things and free will and things like that, people having the right to make their own decisions, and I always stand by that. But there are trade-offs. And one of the trade-offs people have to understand is that we live in a world where we are developing products that are marketed as if they're not dangerous. They're marketed as if some of them are marketed as if they're candy. Some of them are marketed if they're soft drinks or power drinks or those monster drinks. They're in fluorescent colored cans, or they're in edibles and cookies and gummy bears and things like that.
Can't you have too much caffeine in one?
Yeah. And I, listen, people want to smoke, people want to drink alcohol, fine. People have rights to do those things, but what you need to understand, let me give you an anecdote. About 4 or 5 months ago, a man went into a convenience store, took one of these THC-infused edibles. I don't know if it was a drink or an edible, but it was the same concept, and had a psychotic episode where he went crazy, bit his girlfriend's face off in the car, wrecked the car in the yard of his school next to an elementary school, climbed the fence of that elementary school, busted out the window, snatched a toddler who was or maybe a child who was in like K4, and started to grab that child, and the teachers were wrestling him, and he went out with the child and got surrounded by SROs, and he was eventually apprehended, and the child was recovered. This is in Chester County. But there are things we're putting out there in drinks. THC is, it's like liquid pot. Okay, and when you market things and you put things in a way where anybody can get a hold of them, or that can be easily exploited and easily abused, you are going to have unintended consequences. And while I am all for liberty, I also realize that there are societal consequences. There's a reason we don't have cocaine out there that's legal. I'm not.
Well, that's coming down next, isn't it?
Well, there's some people that have advocated for making cocaine legal. I'm going to tell you, every single law enforcement official I have met in a state where they made recreational marijuana has said there has been correlated increases in crime. There have been correlated increases in worse drug abuse, like people who went from pot to cocaine or heroin or meth or fentanyl. There have been correlated issues with the mental health, a rise in mental health issues in that respective state. Sure. And so people are like, yeah, we want our freedom, but you don't realize what you're giving up. There's this public safety component to it, and I have real concerns about that. And so these THC drinks are something that people need to think twice. You need to measure twice, maybe measure 3 times and cut once, because it is very dangerous.
Yes. Well, I just was curious because they didn't seem to be able to make a decision. Do you think, and this is just hypothetical, and they've now sent it back to the House, right, to be do you think that that the House is going to take this up? Do you think some action will come on this session?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I mean, the legislature is not known to rebound from things like this.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I thought I'd ask you.
No, I mean, honestly, I was talking to my running mate, Mike Rickenbaugh, and he was kind of giving me play-by-play on it, and obviously he was for banning it, and then when they couldn't get banned, they were for heavily regulating it, and then when it didn't look like that was going to happen, the people who wanted the Wild West and the people who wanted to ban got together to shut the debate down,
right.
And so now it went back. So it was kind of like an unholy alliance on that issue, and so that's kind of where it stands now. Whether or not they'll get to it this year, I don't know.
I think it's a question.
Yes, ma'am.
A question.
Yeah, it is.
I agree. So, I wanted to ask you about. There's a big push for being a Trump supporter. Are you a Trump supporter? Where do you stand on that? There seems to be some issues out there with Trump.
Yeah, so it's funny. There are a lot of people out there who take pictures with the president and get videos standing on the stage with the president with their thumb up, and then they claim to be the Trump candidate. But I'll tell you right now, I'm looking around at everyone running for governor. I was on the floor in Cleveland when President Trump was nominated the first time in 2016, and I didn't see anyone else there.
I was there.
Well, I'm talking that's running for governor, unless you're about to announce something here on the radio today.
No, not me, not me. I still have time, but no, not me.
I was there in 2016. In 2019, when he was being impeached the first time, I led a coalition of states in a legal brief to the U.S. Senate advocating why this was an unconstitutional impeachment. In fact, the president called me and thanked me for it on my cell phone.
And you answered the phone?
I answered the phone, even though some said I didn't ever answer the president's phone. And then in 2020, after the election, I supported an election integrity effort that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. I was one of the amici states, the friend of the court states, that supported Texas's brief to the U.S. Supreme Court on the election integrity. Right after January 6th, I had over 32 complaints filed against me by the Democrats because I supported the president, and they tried to take my law license, and it took 4 years. And tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to represent myself and defend myself. Last June,
I didn't know that.
Well, a lot of people don't, and I can say it freely now. I couldn't talk about it for 4 years. Last summer, they were all dismissed. Every single time the president has had one of his executive orders challenged, I've been in there supporting the president. I'm going on legal briefs with other states to support the president's authority to close our borders and to protect our communities. So the people out there that are calling me, there was a recent attack on me that claimed I was in league with John Kasich and Chris Christie. I don't know if you saw that, claiming I buddied up to them. In 2015 and early 16, I had 16 presidential forums for every single candidate running as a Republican that year. Mr. Trump participated in one of those, I remember distinctly. And I did those two gentlemen just like I did everyone else. And one of the other campaigns is doing what they do best. They're lying and misleading the public to think I was with candidates. They suggested I endorse Nikki Haley for president. I endorsed President Trump in 2024. One of the other campaigns attacked me for not being there when he announced in January of I guess it was January 24 or 23, I think it was. What they don't tell people is I was heading down to Walterboro to prosecute the Murdaugh case. I was in the middle of the murder trial of the century. I had a daytime job, unlike some of the others who don't work or don't have a job that are running for governor. We were out there representing the people. But the point I'm making, Miss Ann, is I have defended the president in court. I'm the only candidate running for governor who has fought for President Trump and fought for the president's agenda in a court of law, and I've done it dozens and dozens of times.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to ask you because that. Do you think?
By the way, the president endorsed me in 2022 when I ran for re-election for Attorney General, and he endorsed me in 2018. So do you think he'd be endorsing me if I was an ever-Trumper?
I don't think so, Alan. I don't think so, Alan. Well, that's a good point. Do you think how important do you think a President Trump endorsement is in this race with all the candidates that are running?
First off, if there's an endorsement in this country for people to want, it would certainly be President Trump's. Who wouldn't want it? And would it be helpful? I'm sure it would be very helpful. It would be an impactful endorsement. Does that endorsement alone carry the day. I mean, look, he endorsed against one of my opponents who ran for Congress, and that person still won. He endorsed another candidate when Sherry Biggs was running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District, and she won. I mean, there are lots of people who, who the president endorsed and the other person won. So what I would say is this: the president's endorsement is certainly impactful, and certainly I would want it, right? He's the party leader for the country, and I would certainly want it. But do I think it would carry the day? No. I think when people are thinking about who they want as their governor, while they might care what the president thinks and while they may love the president, I think they want to know what candidate is going to make living in the state more affordable for their family, what candidate is going to make this economy more profitable for their business, and what candidate is going to hold government accountable and make government more accountable to the people. And that's what people are thinking of, how to feed their families. And they're tired of driving over broken roads and bridges. They're tired of their utility rates going up, and they're tired of their insurance rates going up and their taxes going up. They want good government, and they want the person they think will deliver it to them. And I think that's what I'm going to focus on.
And I guess you have Trump's cell phone number.
I have the ability to get it. Let's put it that way.
I just thought I'd ask.
I have friends who have spoken to the president for me and have his number. And if I wanted it, they would give it to me.
Right,
but honestly, he's kind of busy right now, so I figure I'll let him focus on the world stage, and I'll focus on South Carolina.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you just kind of led into the next topic I wanted to talk about: taxes and the budget. Everybody wants lower taxes, but people also expect services. One of the big conversations this year is doing away with lowering our taxes. What do you think can realistically be done, Alan?
So, Miss Ann, if you look at history, the last 76 years, if you look, and I've done the research, you look at the last 76 years of state government appropriated spending, there have been only 8 times in 3/4 of a century where we spent less money as a state from one year to the next. The last time being from 2008, 9, and 10, after the recession, right? And so that means the other 68 times we passed a budget, we grew our budget.
Exactly.
Okay, so 68 times over 76 years, we spent more money from one year to the next. The last 2 years, we increased state government spending by double digits. And
Why?
we doubled the budget over the last 10 years. I believe that we need to eliminate the state income tax. And while I recognize that nearly 40% of state government revenue comes from the income tax, I believe that we can replace that, and I will explain why. But before I explain why, let me give you a snapshot. You look at the Southeast and the surrounding areas of the Southeast, fastest growing area in the country. 3 states, Texas, Florida, and Tennessee all have 0% income tax. Oklahoma, Mississippi, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana, they all have 0% income tax. Arkansas and Louisiana's governors have told me that that is a priority for them to eliminate their income tax, and that's going to be put in their general assemblies. The state of Georgia's next year income tax will be 4.9%, and North Carolina's will be 3.9%. South Carolina's income tax is at 6%, which means you have to go as far north as New Jersey or as far west as Wisconsin to find a state with a higher income tax. It is a deterrent to outside growth. Now, how do we replace that income? First off, I've framed the issue, the why we need to do it, to be competitive. Now, here's the how. Over the last 10 years, state government spending has averaged a growth rate of 6.5% on average every year, which means we're spending at a rate of 6.5%, while population has only grown at 3.2% every year. So we are spending we'll just say twice the rate we are growing. We're spending at twice the rate we are growing as a state. Had we capped state government spending to whatever the rate of population growth was for each of the last 10 years, we could have returned nearly $20 billion in permanent tax cuts over that time to the taxpayers. Meaning each year, if let's say the rate of population grew 1.5% that year or 2.5% that year, you could not grow state government spending higher than 2.5%. Right, as opposed to 6.5%. Sure. You return that other 4%,
makes sense.
Right?
Makes sense.
And then here's what happens over a period of time, and it can't be done in 100 days. People have said that in speeches. It's a bumper sticker or applause line. That's a lie. You can't do that. But over a period of time, it could be 8, 10, 12 years, depending on how aggressive you want to be. As people keep more money, a couple of things are going to happen. They're not going to bury it in their backyard or put it in their mattress. They're going to invest it. They're going to buy things. They're going to consume things. Other forms of revenue are going to go up, right? Additionally, outside investment capital will come in to the state. Our economy, the whole economy grows, which means the revenue streams as a percentage of that overall economy will grow. All boats rise with the tide. Sure. Let me give you an anecdotal story. You'll like this. About 7 years ago, I was in Arizona visiting with a friend of mine. I was actually at a conference, and he came and picked me up and took me on a tour of his new company. And after the tour, we were driving back to the hotel, and he was talking about how he loved the Southeast, and one day he'd like to move there. And I pitched South Carolina. You should come to South Carolina. He said, "What's your income tax?" I said, it was 6.5% at the time. He said, "Alan, call me when it's 0, and I will move my business there." That guy's name?
Yes.
Charlie Kirk.
Oh, my God.
That was Turning Point USA.
Right,
Charlie Kirk. And I remember where we were. We were in his car when he was pulling into the hotel. I remember when it happened. There are thousands of Charlie Kirks out there who want to move their capital here, who would like to invest in this state. But that income tax acts as a deterrent. You know what else acts as a deterrent? Our property tax scheme.
That was my next question there.
Well,
yes.
I mean, look at this. I'm talking to a guy who owns he lives in an 8,000 square foot house, and he rents a bunch of 1,500 square foot units. And he says, "Alan, the property taxes on my 1,500 square foot properties are 3.5 times higher than my personal residence, which is 8,000 square feet." Okay? He says, I have to pass on that property tax to my tenants, who are usually on the lower scheme of things. Yeah, the lower scale from a socioeconomic point of view. He says the people who can't afford it are the ones that are getting hit the most. Here's the other thing. When you charge a higher property tax to a business owner or a commercial property or an industrial property owner, the price of the good or service that they are selling you, whether it's a hamburger or it's a radial tire, whatever they're making, that gets baked into the cost of that product. The cost of that product goes up. When you have insurance premiums going up because of frivolous lawsuits or because insurance carriers are leaving the market because of those lawsuits and the insurance premiums are going up, you stack insurance premiums on top of property taxes, on top of business license fees and all the other little fees that you get nickel and dime with, the cost of living goes up and affordability goes down.
Exactly.
We have to have a holistic approach to how we're going to deal with that. And the Act 388, which is the property tax law that was passed 20 years ago this year, needs to be reformed. We need to take it back out and unpack it, and we need to come back and we need to lower people's property taxes.
Oh, overall, are you saying, or what about for seniors? Are you for doing something? I know they've upped the homestead exemption. I
would like to expand the homestead exemption. It went from 50 to 150,000, which means you don't get taxed on the first $150,000 of your house, and if your house is less than $150,000, you shouldn't pay property taxes. I think that should be even higher, and I would advocate for that. I do want to see modeling on it to see what the outcome would be. But another thing I'd like to see for seniors is I would like to see us stop reassessing property values when you're 65 years old. Every couple of years, your property gets reassessed for its value, and that should be capped when you're 65. Most people over 65, not all, but most are on a fixed income or on limited income.
Correct.
And these are their years they should be enjoying themselves and not renting their house from the government. So I would like to cap. First off, I'd like to have the property taxes so low that it doesn't need to be capped. But in the interim, I would argue and sign a law that says if you're over 65, and let's say your house is $200,000 this year, and in 3 years they reassess it at $275, you should not have the value of for taxing purposes. The value of your property should not be taxed at that new value. Now you might be able to recover that value when you sell your house, but you should not be taxed on that value. It should be capped to keep your taxes as low as possible.
Okay, and should business taxes, if I'm understanding what you're saying, should be less than what they are?
Well, commercial and industrial properties are taxed. Yeah, those are where business people are. And I am not. By the way, I'm not suggesting we increase owner-occupied homes.
Okay.
The prices. No. I'm an owner-occupied homeowner, right? I don't want to pay higher taxes. But for business owners, especially small business owners, we can do better. What people have to understand is the government does not create wealth. It does not create prosperity.
You're right.
All the government does, folks that are listening to me. Well, the government, it assesses, it imposes a law, a rule, a policy, a regulation, or it assesses a tax rate on you. And then the private sector responds to that, either positively or negatively. And a lot of times, the things that the government does creates less prosperity in the private sector, which brings down affordability, makes it difficult for people to make a living, and then they don't blame the government, they blame everyone else. But it's the government's like the referee on a football field. We don't play the game, we just set the conditions for the game to be played. You got bad refs, you're going to get a bad football game with bad outcomes. Same thing with the government. Bad government produces bad outcomes. You produce more revenue when you allow people to keep more of their money and you have regulations that are predictable and easily held accountable. Right now, when you have regulations being imposed on businesses and people that are arbitrary, capricious, and convoluted and complex, you have to hire lawyers and accountants and CPAs to be able to comply with those regulations. So what does that do? That the cost of the good or service being provided goes up.
Exactly. Now, what about, though, if we went into a recession? Because one of the things that they are saying that they're willing, the legislature, to lower taxes provided we keep going up in revenue. I think that's a ridiculous statement.
It's ridiculous. We do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. Where
have I heard that before?
I've been saying it for years. The issue is that the same market forces that exist in the private sector that make business owners adjust, makes them become more efficient, makes them become more innovative because they have to survive, right? When the recession happens, business owners cut, business owners make decisions. When there's bad market forces, the government actors, the people enforcing the laws, the rules, the regulations, and collecting the taxes, they get paid no matter how bad the economy is. And so there is no invisible hand that moves them because they're protected. As governor, I want to create those same market forces in the government that exists in the private sector. And you do that through several ways. First off, our oversight system. Our state auditor's office, our inspector general's officers, our legislative audit councils, all of our oversight components are siloed. They don't communicate and they're reactive. You have to file a complaint with them. They should all be proactive. We should also be we're using technologies that are 20, 30 years old. We should be using advanced AI technologies to track our spending and our regulatory framework. We should be using blockchain technology to track how money goes from the appropriation at the legislative all the way down to the school district so that it's impossible to defraud the government. We should be using these technologies to create more sunlight, more transparency, and make it impossible for ineffective, feckless bureaucrats to abuse people's tax dollars and punish businesses because they don't know how to do their jobs. We create those market forces in the government through those oversight process, a Doge, if you will. Mm-hmm. We remove the outdated, outmoded, the duplicative regulations and policies that should have been sunsetted years ago. All of a sudden, you're going to see the economy roar to life, and you're going to see us starting to produce a lot more revenue. You don't need to have higher taxes to collect more revenue because the economy will be producing it for you.
You know, there's an old saying, people don't do what you expect, only what you inspect.
That's right.
And I think we see that too many times. There is not oversight on how money is spent in our state or in any organization. That is a problem.
Miss Ann, the three most expensive things we do in government: we educate, we incarcerate, and we medicate. Billions of dollars go to those three streams right there. We barely monitor how that money is being spent and how those people are implementing the rules and policies and the powers we give them. And that needs to change. And that is something, right now, it's like we're leaking oil all over the floor of our garage. The engine of government is leaking oil, which means the engine of government is not going to be functioning well. And we have got to tune this government up, and we have got to get rid of all the excesses. And the way to do that is to be innovative with advanced technologies and more vertical integration in government. What I mean by that is we have so many boards and commissions that control agencies. There should be vertical integration means there's a line of accountability to the governor. Right now, we have agencies where you have the legislative delegations appoint members to a commission, and then you'll have 7, 8, 9, 10 members on a commission who appoint the executive director to run that particular organization. And so when you know what hits the fan, who do you go to hold accountable? Because you can't go to the governor, and you can't go to the delegate because you can only vote for your House member and senator.
Right. So again, people don't do what you expect, only what you inspect.
That's right.
Yes, exactly. So here we are. We are here with South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. He is a candidate for governor. Alan, I had a couple other questions, but I know we need to cut this off. So that means you have to come back and see me again.
I will love to come back and see you, and I'm happy to call in if you want to get those questions on the record. And at the end of the day, the office of governor does not belong to me or any person running for it or even its current occupant. It belongs to you and everyone listening to my voice right now. And the day that people like me don't respect or understand that is the day we no longer deserve your consideration for that office. I'm here today, in closing, to tell everyone who is listening to me that I know that I'm running. This is a job interview to me, and I'm asking you to consider me to hire me doing this job. I would be honored to have your vote. I'm asking everyone listening to me for your vote. If you're already voting for me, thank you. If you are undecided, I'm just looking for the opportunity to earn your support over the next 77 days. And if you've decided to go another way with another candidate, this would be my final ask. If I can't be your first choice, can I be your second? Meaning, if I make it into a runoff and
Right.
your preferred candidate doesn't, then I would ask for people to consider me at that time to be their second ballot candidate, and I would be honored to have your support at that time. I do believe I'm going to be the next governor, and I appreciate people for giving me the opportunity to serve as their attorney general. I'm a 30-year combat veteran who's received the endorsement of over 80% of the sheriffs in South Carolina that are Republican, and I think that says something about my ability to do a job as complex as this job. I think I'm up to it, and I look forward to doing it.
And if people want more information about you, Alan, where should they look?
WilsonForSC.com. That's Wilson, the preposition, not the number. WilsonForSC.com. And you can donate. You can learn more about us. You can reach out to our campaign. You can contact me, and I'll be coming to a community to you. So come hear me talk and ask me tough questions.
Well, I think you did pretty good here today, Alan, on this job interview.
Thank you, Miss Ann.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, you have been listening to WCRS, my special guest this evening, live on Facebook, live on the radio. South Carolina Attorney General running for governor for the great state of South Carolina. And I am so glad that you were able to come and be with us this evening, Alan.
I was honored. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's going to do it for us. This is WCRS. Let's cue the music. Let's, cue the music and put the curtain down, and we are gone. I'll be seeing you in the morning. Bye-bye, everybody. No, it was good. It was good. Huh? Okay. All right. How'd you do? I think you did great.
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. I think we had a great conversation. What do you think? Well, I try to be prepared. You know that, Alan. Yes, I do. So. All right, then. There you go. Thank you very much, Alan. More than one. Yeah, there you go.